Midnight shift employees of Reddit. What's the creepiest experience you've had during your nighttime shift? I work on a cargo ship and the night shift take turns doing fire control rounds of every deck and the engine room. Maybe a month back I was in the middle of one of these rounds. I was on one of the lower decks where we load long haul trucks like sardines. So tight you have to walk sideways between them. I'm shuffling along between these trucks and trailers with music in my ears. I'm looking at the temp on some of the freezer trailers to make sure it's all good, and it is, as far as I can tell, after just turning away from a trailer. I swear, I hear a weak voice just behind me. Logan, it says. I quickly pop an earplug out and turn around, but there is no one there. I stand still for a couple of seconds and listen. The row of trucks I'm standing in is maybe 12 trucks long and 7 wide. Due to the darkness I can maybe see 2 trucks down the row to either side of me. That's weird. I think I should be the only one down here. I grab my radio in my breast pocket and call the bridge. Bridge, this is Logan on deck 3. Yes Logan, bridge here. Did you guys call me just now? No. Why? No reason, I say, and end the call. Now I'm starting to calm down a little and start moving again. Right when I go to put my music on, there it is again. Logan. Now I'm really freaked out. Last time I wasn't 100% sure because of the music in my ears, but now I really heard it. Someone said my name right behind my back. I'm frozen in place. I can't move. I'm pressed shoulder to shoulder between 2 trucks. I'm cold from fear all over. It feels like someone is standing right behind me in the dark, looking at me. Like if I turn around I will see a man shape in the row behind me. I hear it again. Logan, the voice says. Logan. Finally, after what feels like an hour, I turn my head and look behind me. Darkness. Nothing. What I do see, however, is the faint light of my phone in my back pocket. It is currently in an open call to my father. Call time is about 5 minutes, and now I can clearly hear my father on the other end. Logan, he says, why the hell are you calling in the middle of the night for? I used to be a crew chief at IHOP during the night shift, but there wasn't a crew, lol, it was just me and one cook. One night a man came in and seemed so friendly and insightful. He was telling me about his time as a music producer in LA. He was so polite with me throughout our conversation. Something I can't stress enough, lol. A few more customers came in, and as I took care of their orders, the man I spoke to started talking to himself and laughing. Then the laughter got louder and louder and almost maniacal. He then went on a huge rant about the world, but he shouted in different pitches throughout the rant, even disturbingly changing his facial expressions. He scared off 2 of the other patrons and I had to call the cops. When they showed up, his whole demeanor went back to normal and he politely walked out with the police but looked back at me and winked. I was scared the whole night. Security guard here. For about 2 weeks during Christmas time, our facility shuts down. The only ones present are the guards. We work long, boring shifts, and all of the lights except for the office areas are shut off. This was about 10 PM one of those nights. It's already surreal being alone in a huge facility in the middle of nowhere, at least a mile by car from the next nearest human. I'm walking around, no flashlight because I'm a dumbass, and like straight out of a horror movie, I see a person like shadow move between 2 tall shelves. I start jogging down there, trying to be quiet so I can just observe if it's a person or my mind playing tricks. I track this person for about 10 minutes, only getting brief glimpses of shadows letting me know where they are, until I took a different route and finally saw the shadow of a person approaching me. I got out my light on my phone and stupidly yelled, "Security. WHO the FS there?" It was our maintenance coordinator, Mark. His face was really red and he looked like he'd been crying. I was like, "Oosh, hey man, sorry, everything okay?" He kinda mumbled, "Yeah, it's alright. I have some stuff to do in my office," and walked off. I heard later he and his wife got into a huge fight around that time and she left him and went to stay with her parents. This incident was only a few days before Christmas, too. I never mentioned it to him when everyone came back from holiday, but I figure he just wanted to come somewhere safe and get his mind off of stuff. And I still feel bad for probably scaring the shit out of him on a really bad night. When I was in the oil field, I had to take a piss, so I walked to the edge of my work site and let it rip. Halfway through, a mountain lion walked right by me, like within 10 feet. That was scary. Another time I'm standing on the edge of the site and shining my flashlight into the empty field and I see all these little green emeralds. There's thousands of them all over the field and I have no idea what they are. I walk out into the field about 30 yards or so and lean in on one of them. Yep, they were all spiders. I was a night shift security guard at a cemetery, and I worked alone. I was doing my rounds one night and I noticed the metal gate to one of the old tunnels was slightly ajar. I heard voices. Now these old tunnels were used to store high value equipment, and policy was that if I found a door unlocked I was to enter and secure the area, and only if I found something amiss to call the police. To be fair, we found doors and gates left unlocked all the time. And of course I have no idea where the light switch is and all the lights are off. So I have to go creeping through these dark tunnels with a flashlight having no idea what I'm about to find. Turns out one of the maintenance guys left a radio on and forgot to lock the gate. I used to work a late shift in a warehouse putting together online orders. We would leave the dock doors up because it got hot in the warehouse. Normally on slow days we just hung out on the loading dock smoking cigarettes and drinking coffee. Behind our warehouse was a small patch of woods, maybe like 2 acres, and just past the wooded area is a super ghetto apartment complex. I should mention quite regularly we'd smoke reefer and this was one of those times. My coworker and I are sitting on the loading dock staring at the woods. Lo and behold, some junkie comes stumbling out the woods in tighty whities. I, being pretty baked at this point, look to my coworker and ask him, "Hey, I'm not seeing right? A dude just came out the woods in undies, right?" He calmly replies, "Yup, that's real." Then the junkie starts walking around in circles and he's yelling, "Why oh, where the F are you?" I yell out to the junkie and ask him who he is yelling at. He keeps saying he can't find his homie. He kept yelling and all of a sudden I hear this rustling in the woods. And, I should not, a refine horse comes out the damn woods. The thing was all raggedy, like it had mange, and the damn horse looked like it was on drugs. The junkie looks at the horse and says, "There you are, dude." Anyways, I look at my coworker and ask if the horse is real and he just nods and we both just watch this junkie guy in underwear and a junkie horse wander off into the night. Also, I should probably say I don't live anywhere remotely rural. It's a pretty big city and there aren't like farms or anything close by, so it's pretty rare to see a horse unless a cop is on it. I used to deliver pizzas in high school in the mid-90s before GPS and Google Maps. I lived in the same small lay town my whole life and could have probably delivered pizzas blindfolded. We stayed open till 1 AM on weekends. I was one of the only females that delivered till close because I wasn't cute and could handle late night drunks. So I get this order basically 30 seconds after we stopped taking orders and I decided to go ahead and do the delivery. It was way out in the country. I don't think we've ever got an order from there. So I drive out there and when I turned down the dirt road I immediately felt something off about the whole thing. The road was barely drivable and kept getting more and more narrow. I drive all the way to the end and there's no houses, no lights, nothing, so I turn around and drive back slowly to just make sure I didn't miss anything. My headlights hit something white on the side of the road that hadn't been there before and my creepy meter starts screaming. It moves. It's a person crawling into the road wearing white. So I tear off to go get help. I come back with a cop friend. We get back to the exact spot and he informed me there weren't any houses out there and to stay in the car while he draws his gun and starts checking it out. After a few minutes he comes running back to his car calling for backup. He tells me there's blood and teeth on the road. Yeah, I was basically paralyzed, but I'm not leaving him there alone. So I lock my doors and reposition my car so that I'm not in the way of incoming police, and my headlights hit a man stumbling toward my car with no bottom jaw. I honk and scream for my friend and this guy falls on the hood of my car. Turns out this guy owed drug money to the wrong people. They took him out there and shot him in the face. They thought he was dead and left. He came to missing the lower part of his face and couldn't see, so he just kept walking hoping he'd run into someone before he bled out. He later died in surgery the next day. The creepy part hit when I came back with a bloody hood and cold pizza without payment. Police pulled phone records and there was no incoming calls logged during the time period my manager took the order. But I know the phone rang and listened to her take the order because I was kind of mad about the time. I could hear the male voice talking to my manager, but they could never find any record of call or the number it came from. I quit the next day. I still have nightmares about that night, and I get sick feeling when I smell pizza to this day 25 years later. They never found out who the man was that died because he had no ID or tattoos and there wasn't much of his face left. Probably an illegal immigrant. Night shift at a hospital I used to work at. Get report at beginning of shift. Patient is non-verbal due to dementia. Literally the report I get is they have such advanced dementia that they haven't spoken an intelligible word in several years, just mostly grunting and moaning. This hospital was old. Very old. Tiny rooms. Kind of a dark place at night. I'm basically trying to get this person's heart rhythm under control for most of my 12-hour night shift. It's 230 am. I've been running a cardiac drip on this person for hours trying to get things under control, then all of a sudden I see a lethal rhythm on the monitor. Touch briefly and go into the room to check on the patient. Look at monitor again, the rhythm is now totally normal. The power in the entire building flickers very briefly and the patient says in perfect clear English, "I was born in 1895, I need to go home," and repeats it several times to my absolute horror. I go get another nurse and patient is now muttering unintelligible sounds again as they had been when I assisted beginning of shift. Not this really happened. I don't believe in ghosts. But this incident made me wonder for several months after. Who knows? Maybe it was just a coincidence and the multiple meds they were on. The woman who came into the store, smallish town convenience store, rambling about how the government had swapped out her kids for imposters and how she needed to find a way to get rid of them. Luckily some of the police in town knew me, and they knew who I was talking about when I called. Last I heard, a family member adopted the kids and the woman was getting help. I'm a cab driver in a small mountain town. I've seen a plainclothes police officer hit in the head with a skateboard by a young teen having a psychotic episode. He died from his injuries later. I've seen a cougar running up the main street hissing at every movement. I've seen a man get into my cab wearing a huge unsheathed machete strapped to his leg and ramble about in a deranged fashion until he told me to pull over and he ran away. All these things are not necessarily scary as the occultish type things you hear about night shift, but they were still scary. I'm a female cab driver by the way, and yes, I carry pepper spray. Most disquieting was during the Redneeking riots. There was looting relatively near our grocery store. They closed the store but the night crew chief walked around the store, handing us baseball bats and said if the store was breached we should feel free to defend ourselves. Nothing happened, of course, but was a surreal moment. RN here. I used to work nights and one night I was sent home early because we were overstaffed. So it was about 1 am. I am driving home on empty streets and stop at a red light. I sense movement and I see an animal walking towards my car. It's a very tall animal. Looks like a coyote but was as tall as my car. It is staring me down and then as I lock eyes with it, it starts running towards my car. So I step on the gas, run the red light, and booked it home. Never have I been so freaked out by something like that. My husband thinks maybe I was partly falling asleep or something, but I remember it so clearly.